Have you ever wondered what kind of manager Jesus would have been? Certainly not a micromanager, because he likes to delegate extraordinary responsibilities to ordinary people. And when did God first see our resume? St. Paul wrote to the Ephesians that we were chosen to be holy or set apart for God's purposes from the foundations of the world. To discover the work that God has in mind for us, we turn to the prophet Amos's call on display in our first reading. First, when God makes us a job offer, it is not a career, but a calling. This is why we rightfully refer to God's calling, or His will for our life, as a vocation. It begins as a dream in the mind of God long before we were formed. St. Paul wrote in our second reading, God chose us before the foundation of the world, to be holy and without blemish before Him. In love He destined us for adoption, in accord with the favor of His will, for the praise of the glory of His grace. This means our best path in life is not a door of opportunity that we have created and opened, but one that God has made specifically for us. St. John Bosco, who arguably changed the lives of more youth than any other saint in history, firmly believed that as many as 1 out of 3 people are called to the religious life or priesthood. Why then do we have a vocations crisis? Among other things, we are asking our children the wrong question. It's not, what do you want to be when you grow up? The right question is, what is God calling you to? After spending weeks, my senior year in college, asking God to pick the right job offer from those in hand, He simply asked me, have you ever considered working for me? I felt a profound sadness for wasting 23 years of my life telling God what I was going to do, and never asking Him. Amos chose to be a shepherd and a dresser of sycamores, before God called him to be a prophet. Second, when we follow God's calling, expect persecution. We are not here to win the world's accolades. Our life is not a preparation for more worldliness, but for an eternity spent with God. This is why we are called a pilgrim church, and this is a religious journey. What we experience now is the passing currents of the ocean, not dry land. When we look at the lives of the prophets, apostles, and early Christians, almost all were persecuted and probably martyred for their beliefs. If they had simply made religion a private matter and not bothered the world, they could have sailed safely through this life, but perhaps never to the shore of eternal life. As a prophet or mouthpiece for God, Amos was asked to deliver a message the world did not want to hear. Amos lived in the southern kingdom of Judah, but was asked to prophesy in the northern kingdom of Israel. Both the priest Amaziah and the king Jeroboam took offense at Amos and kicked him out with these harsh words. Off with you, visionary. Flee to the land of Judah. There earn your bread by prophesying, and never prophesy again in Bethel. Lastly, when working for God, we evangelize by proclaiming God's glory and truth. St. Paul wrote, in Him we were also chosen, so that we might exist for the praise of His glory and the word of truth. Mary played a prophetic role in this also. She proclaimed God's greatness in prayer after visiting Elizabeth. Her Magnificat prayer says, my soul magnifies the Lord. This is evangelization. For Mary is echoing, magnifying, and amplifying God like a loudspeaker to the world. Is Mary changing God when her soul magnifies or glorifies God? No. We cannot add or subtract from God, any more than an art critic mocking the beauty of Michelangelo's famous Pietà. The statue loses no beauty. But in us, God is capable of increase or decrease. Evangelizing or proclaiming God's glory and truth changes us and those around us. Our love for God passes through our soul like a prism, diffuses the colors of light, and it intensifies the brightness of God's sun, like sunlight through a magnifying glass. As seen in Mary's life, there is no limit on God's part to his possession of a soul. It is a soul alone that can limit his welcome, as a window curtain limits the light. Why is answering God's vocational call necessary? The spiritual writer Father Henry Nouwen answered, "It is very important to realize that our vocation is hidden in where we are and who we are. We are unique human beings, each with a call to realize in life what no one else can. And we will know our vocation," said Dorothy Day, "by the joy that it brings you."